Hey guys, Mike with Long Range with the Lilies. Here today to talk about a little bit of a departure from our normal stuff that we feature on this channel. I want to talk to you today about the notion that other people are going to save your life. And what do I mean by that? Well, it seems to be in modern America, we have reached a point in our society to where there's this general consensus or this general idea that if something bad happens to you, somebody's going to come save you. If your life is being endangered by a criminal, that the police are going to save you. If you are critically injured, that an ambulance and medics are going to come save you. If there's a natural disaster, somebody's going to show up to provide you with food and water and shelter. If you're lost in the woods, somebody's going to come rescue you, some search and rescue team. I don't buy into that philosophy. I feel like nobody is responsible for your life and your family's life like you are. Nobody's as invested in it. Nobody is going to care more about you or your family's life than you. And I'm not limiting this to like gun stuff, right? I know this is a channel about long range shooting, but I feel this message is important enough to talk about, and I don't want to limit it to just guns. I feel like there are core skill sets that you should be able to do. Being able to treat first aid and to apply medical care. Being able to provide for yourself food, water, shelter. Do you know how to hunt? Do you know how to grow vegetables? Do you know how to purify water if you need to? Do you know how to do basic things necessary to live? Do you know how to sew? Do you know how to take care of personal hygiene and stuff like that? Do you know how to navigate? Do you know how to read a map? Do you know how to can you hike? Are you physically fit? Can you get yourself out of trouble? If we're talking into the defensive type stuff, do you own a firearm? Do you know how to use a firearm? And one that I don't think it's talked about much, especially amongst gun people, because there's this idea I have a gun so I don't need anything else. Do you know how to fight? Do you know how to handle yourself in a physical altercation? Do you know how to make space so where you can get to that defensive gun use? More importantly, do you know how to extradite yourself from a bad situation without getting to defensive gun use? I think that that's overlooked as well. I think, going back to the beginning of what I was saying, there's this culture in America now, and it's really because we're blessed enough and fortunate enough in this country to where we've accepted this level of spoiledness, for really lack of a more articulate way to say it. There's this saying, it's really popular in the gun community, and it's mostly talking about defensive gun use, but it applies to all these other things I just said too. When seconds matter, help is only minutes away. So if we're looking at that from a medical perspective, like, do you know how to apply immediate life-saving steps? For example, I would feel a sense of guilt that I don't think I would ever shake if something were to happen to a family member that I could have saved their life and they ended up dying because I didn't know what to do. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to go be a trauma surgeon and do these crazy things. I'm talking about basic life-saving steps. Do you know how to stop somebody or save somebody when they're choking? Do you know how to stop bleeding? Do you know what shock looks like? Do you know how to treat it? All these things that you could learn with actually minimal effort, stuff that's out there on the internet, or better yet, going to get a hands-on class that I don't think we're investing time in, because there's this notion, again, that if we get hurt, if I fall down and, I don't know, impale myself on a T-post setting targets, do I know what to do to save myself? And we're always saying, oh, somebody will come get me, or, I see it all the time, especially amongst like major city urban dwellers. Seattle's really bad about it because it's a major urban city right next to pretty expansive wilderness. And you read about people getting lost all the time and running out of food, running out of water, hurting themselves, and then they end up perishing. And this is all preventable, through a little bit of education. And what I find with most of these incidents is people don't think about this stuff until they're already in an emergency. So what I wanted to do was to make this video to kind of bring this to the forefront of people's minds. There's been a lot of stuff in the media lately about situations like this where somebody has had to either save a life or take a life in order to save lives, or provide immediate medical care, or they've depended on the police and the police haven't shown up. I see that story a lot. That's just a political climate that we live in, and depending on what state you live in and what part of the country, this may be better or worse for you. But I will tell you, as a whole, police departments are less about proactive policing and more about reactive policing, meaning after the crime has already occurred. And if you're waiting till after the crime has already occurred, it might be too late for you or your family. So, things like situational awareness that you can teach, learning, how to stay safe, or now how to avoid being in a bad situation in the first place. Stuff like that, and I feel like with the political climate and everything else, like, police are really kind of pulling back, and it was even proven in a court of law recently that there is no legal responsibility for police to save you, which is extremely unfortunate. And there's a lot of good examples about that. Most of them are politically charged, and I don't want to get into them because that's not what this video is about. This video is about you taking responsibility for your safety, the safety of your loved ones, and the fact that you can survive whatever it is that life happens to throw at you. Because if you don't, you're taking a risk. So I grew up with my adult life in the military, and so I'm lucky that I've had a lot of exposure to some of these things, first aid, defensive stuff, gun use, how to fight, etc. Not everybody in the military gets those trainings, but I have been fortunate enough to be exposed to it. So what I wanted to say was the way the military, or at least the Army, measures risk is like this graph, and on one side is like the likelihood of it happening, and on the other side is the severity of it happening. So if it's not very likely, but it's the severity is like extremely catastrophic, like somebody's going to die, then it may end up only being a moderate risk. And then, obviously if it's very likely to happen and, the risk is somewhat high, meaning somebody could get severely injured and maybe not all the way to death, that's a high risk. So I would say that these are risks that I am not willing to assume. I don't know about you. The point again is, what are you going to do to mitigate that risk that's within your time, resources, and power to affect? So again, I hope this jogs some stuff for you guys. I just wanted to bring it up. Just wanted to spark this discussion, have a conversation, get this information out there. It's been kind of weighing on me, and one of the ways I get rid of that stuff is by putting it out to you guys. If you like what you see, guys, like, comment. I enjoy interactions and comments, and I feel like it sparks good discussions and we all learn from it. Feel free to subscribe and share, and guys, I hope you're safe out there, and I hope to see you guys out there. All right, have a good one.